I guess that's fine for a doormat, don't you think? Let's see if we can do just a little bit better. This video is sponsored by Cabot Stains. Whenever I want to do a project that's a little outside the box, I turn to my scrap pile of wood. I found some old heart pine and some walnut in there, and I thought, why not make a doormat out of wood? So that's what I decided to do. I didn't have a total design in my head when I started, but I knew I needed to mill up this lumber and get it cleaned up. I wanted to have a doormat that was about 3/4 of an inch thick, so it wasn't a trip hazard. And I knew I wanted to do a mix of the different woods to really highlight the dark wood and the light wood and the different grain patterns. So these were a good mix for me. I couldn't figure out exactly what to do with the walnut yet, so I decided to just glue up my frame. Now I'm using a polyurethane glue here, and it's important to mist the wood before you put it on. That really activates the glue. Then I'm holding everything together using corrugated fasteners. It's kind of unusual, but it's mostly for picture frames, but I really like this for this kind of application. They're pretty strong, and for a simple frame like this, it works really well. It was important to get everything completely squared up, and then we were ready to fasten it. 2 corrugated fasteners in each joint held everything tight while the glue set up. And then I'd measure my diagonals to make sure everything is completely square and make any adjustments as necessary. I decided to do something on the diagonal with the walnut, but I still wasn't sure, so I just kind of played with one of the 4 quadrants that I'd created here. Trying to play with it at different angles and the spacing, how many did I need. I used some scrap wood as spacers and really didn't know what I was doing until I started to really put it all together. And then I got a feel for the pattern. And once I got that pattern, I just had to repeat it on all 4 sections. Then it was time to head over to the chop saw and cut all that walnut to fit. Since I'd squared it up, every quadrant was exactly the same, so I just needed to cut 4 pieces of each kind. Then it was time to dry fit everything and make sure my measurements were right. Not always the case, but in this case, I nailed it. I really like the different design on this, and for a doormat, you can wipe your feet and it'll pull across the dirt and dust in different angles, so we're ready to go. I was gluing everything together again with that polyurethane glue. This was pretty tedious, trying to get the glue on everything and be able to have some space to work with. I'm holding it in place with some 18 gauge nails here, just some 1 inch. I started with 1 1/4, but they were coming through in some places, so a shorter nail is probably better. 3/4 of an inch would have been fine too, but I am using stainless steel fasteners because this is going outside. And this was by far the most tedious part of the process. Making sure I didn't get covered in glue, making sure I got everything lined up the way it should be, and the nails didn't go all wonky on me because I am nailing through a hard wood like walnut. Now I did have a lot of sanding to do, and I used a little wood filler in a few of the joints that were larger. I had to sand everything from 60, 80, 120, all the way up, but it came out really nice, and then it was time for some finish. And what do you think I'm using? That's right, my favorite, Australian timber oil. This one's in natural. You hear that? It works so great, and it's easy to put on. It really highlights the color of the natural wood, and for this, that's what it was all about. I'm not trying to obscure the grain on this at all. I've used this before on my DIY Adirondack chair and my DIY garden planter, if you want to check out those videos in the link above. Then it was time for the big reveal, and man was I thrilled with how this turned out. The warmth of the heart pine and the depth of that walnut, it made for just the right contrast I was looking for. Honestly, the whole thing was too pretty to use as a doormat. Well, almost. If you like this video, then you're a brilliant person. And if you didn't, oh gosh, I tried my best. But either way, you should subscribe because there's a chance I'm going to put out another great video soon and you don't want to miss that one.